All right, so hi, I am Drew May, and we are here with Miss Jennifer Clark, and we are here to do our improved coaching session after our identify coaching session and our learn coaching session. So I know we've reviewed, I'm just going to review a couple things that we've gone over
Go ahead.
from our previous sessions. First, we did our peers goal, current reality, film the classroom. Then based on that, we formed a peers goal. Based on what you had seen in observation. But then on our last session, I showed you some modeling on the computer with Schoology and how to implement some blended classroom things.
Right.
And then you picked a time to implement it, which I believe was this past week, correct?
That is correct.
So that's kind of what we've looked at first. Now we're going to go through the improved coaching session, where we're going to look at how we can improve the coaching, what next steps we need to take, and I'll be asking you a couple of questions on how we can improve what we were doing and see if you can show me kind of what you did
All right.
during the implementation.
All right. Sounds great.
All right, awesome.
All right. All right, so I went into my Schoology to where I posted it, and the kids, we use Schoology all the time, every day, so they're very familiar with this as well.
Right, just like on the checklist, they know where to find it. Okay.
Exactly. Oh, and I typed too fast. Try that again.
I do that all the time. It does not like that password sometimes.
Okay. Into my courses. And then here was
last week.
Went to that folder, and there, that is where you would find the lesson. And that's where the kids went into it.
Okay, and then they click on it, and then they have their lesson, and then after the lesson you discuss and so on, like you were doing on the checklist.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's it exactly.
Hey, makes perfect sense. We won't go in and we won't show the lesson or anything like that. Yeah, but yeah, it looks good. They're able to find it and able to use it, able to log in. They're able to do everything on the checklist.
They're completely familiar with Schoology, so this was just like it would be every day, just a new resource for them to use. So
okay,
yep.
perfect.
Worked well. All right.
Awesome. Well, first, we'll need to look at some tools that you've gathered so far as student progress, because that's the main part of this is student learning. So what did you decide to do so that you could measure student knowledge?
Well, after implementing the lesson, I did a common formative assessment, and so I just gathered that data right here. After they took it, we kind of went over their scores and analyzed those.
Okay, all right, interesting. Sounds like a good way to do it with through common formative assessments. And with your implementation, I know we had talked about our blended classroom checklist. Were you able to meet, based on this, were you able to meet that 80% that you wanted to do for implementing technology?
Exactly, yes, I was. I went through it and checked to make sure I had used all of these things. The checklist was very, helpful to make sure that I did do that. And so, yeah, I did meet that 80% goal that we had set.
Awesome. And then next is I'm just going to ask you some questions. We're going to go through 4 different steps to see how we can improve our instruction. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and then through here we may want to make some adaptations, or we may want to plan our next steps so that we can eventually meet our goal.
All right, that sounds fine.
Okay. So just a couple questions. We kind of want to just confirm our direction, the way that you're going with your goal. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions. Given the time we have today, what is the most important thing for us to talk about?
I feel like it would probably be making sure that that I am getting that 80% usage of the technology. Because sometimes you have to really be very mindful of that.
Okay, good. So what's on your mind as far as all of that?
I would probably say there's sometimes it may be a bit of a challenge because there's so many resources out there that sometimes it can be a little overwhelming. So it may be being aware of what's out there, what best fits the particular class or the particular subject that I'm working in.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely a lot out there with technology.
Mm-hmm.
So, question number 2 is we want to review our progress.
Mm-hmm.
So, what has gone well so far?
Well, I feel like the students of, this generation, they are so used to technology, it's just a natural thing for them to have, and so they just kind of, blend better when they have that use of technology versus just the old thing where the teacher is giving the lesson and just talking up at the front of the class. So I think that did get them engaged more.
Yeah, I agree. So what did you learn? I know you kind of talked about it right there, so I guess that kind of answers itself, kind of what you learned about. Is there anything that you would like to add to that as far as what you learned from the lesson?
I think that pretty well covers it. Just the fact that they're just used to having technology, and I think their brains may actually be programmed differently than ours, so that they just more. If it doesn't have technology involved in it, they can't quite relate to it as well.
Right, they're just so used to that, having a screen in front of them almost, yeah. What roadblocks did you happen to run into during the implementation of the strategy?
I would say probably, each child is different, and so some kids are able to manipulate technology completely on their own, and they're able to kind of soak that and pull that information out that we're trying to get them to learn, versus kids with different attention levels or ability levels or just learning styles. So some of them, it was a little bit more of a challenge than maybe some of the others.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. So as we look through making improvements to the implementation of the blended classroom, do you want to keep using the strategy as it is? Do you want to choose a new strategy? Do you want to revisit how you use the strategy? Would you want to use it keep the same strategy but use it in a different way? Kind of where do you see that going as far as making improvements with it?
I would probably say somehow getting it more into that differentiation where that may be something we have to discover, whether each child can use the same program, but I present it or have different requirements based on their ability levels, or if a particular set of kids or students work better with one thing while another set might work better to master the same learning objectives, but they might need a different sort of resource.
Yeah, I could have said that better myself. Yeah. No, I mean, you're right, because differentiation with each kid being different, especially with some of the students you deal with, I mean, is definitely a big thing. The next, as far as improvement, would be like your peers goal. So do you want to change the way we measure progress towards the goal? I know we have the checklist. I know we have the CFAs to go along with it. Is there anything else that you would like to do to maybe measure the way you measure the progress towards the goal?
Right off the top of my head, I would probably say not. I think this works pretty well, but if you were to come across something or to know something that you think would be more effective, I would definitely be open to any suggestions.
No, and I think this is a good spot. I think the only thing is maybe kind of putting it in one spot. So when we plan our next steps, I'll show you this next steps planning form, where it shows the goal and the progress and your action steps and when it's going to happen, your commitment level from a level 1 to a level 5. So we can hopefully take some of this. So we'll keep it the same, but we could probably make like a little slight adjustment.
Right.
So you could kind of have it all in one place to see the progress and the data and things like that.
Okay, that sounds great.
Kind of all in one spot.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So do you want to, since you like the way you measure it, do you want to keep the goal the way it is?
Again, I think I'm comfortable with it, but if any point in time you feel a way that we can refine it a little bit better, to improve student learning in any format, then I'm always open to suggestions of that nature.
Okay, all right. So next, we want to plan our next step. I know I just mentioned the form here. Your data looks good. Looks like you were able to implement everything from the blended classroom checklist. So are there any additional goals that you can see that might help you get towards your main goal of that 80%? Or you just kind of want to just keep it at that one? Let's concentrate all of our eggs in one basket, I guess you could say.
I think I would probably start there. Right now I think I'm kind of hit a comfortable zone, so I might work this a little bit more for the time being.
Okay, and that's what we can put here. So we'll just need to write down and organize what we need to do. So right now it just seems like your goal is going to be here. We can put our progress in here as far as where the kids are,
Right.
And kind of where you feel like your percentage with this is going. And then here we'll put our, sorry, I had it all the way over here. Then right here we'll put our next steps as we go through. Do we want to create another goal? When is that going to happen? And our commitment level to that goal.
Okay.
And then you can see there's several different spots if we wanted to create underlying goals to help us meet that goal. Then we could, and then we would have action steps and when those would take place. So to create and ensure that those actions are completed, we have the action planning form. So we'll make sure that we reach these next steps as far as, hey, we're going to keep the goal the same. We want to look at differentiation. We want to, we know that each kid is different. Maybe find a place for a way to log these to maybe better see them. The checklist is more for you, but for the kids, as they move forward, they putting blended classroom into more than just social studies and science,
Right,
maybe into some ELA. Maybe we want to extend it across some subject areas.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So we could put that in our action plan. Because if it's working for you in social studies, maybe, hey, I've mastered this within this. Maybe we want to go to a different area. Because it could be worth a try.
Yeah, I'm, like I said, I'm definitely open for that.
Okay. So when should we meet next, do you believe?
I would probably say I can probably digest the rest of the week and then maybe set up a time for next week.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. So we'll, and that'll be part of our action steps. We want to meet again. How often do we meet? Whatever's best for you. If we ever need to see modeling again because this time it was science and social studies, maybe there needs to be some modeling to see it, how blended classroom was done with writing or reading or something. Math or something of that sort, right?
So different, right?
So let's see. What tasks have to be done before we meet again?
I would say I probably need to maybe digest the data that I do have, maybe graph it out in some way, maybe even take another, do another CFA with the students so I can have like data points to compare to see if that I'm seeing continued improvement. Those would be the first things that I would think of.
All right, and we'll put, and I jotted a little note down for our action plan here, which sounds good, by the way. Sounds really good. Yeah, definitely want to have a place where you can view it and compile the data, especially if there's going to be more based on it. When will those things happen? I know you said you wanted to meet next week. Are you talking about getting in this data sometime before we meet next time?
Yeah, I think I could probably have that and maybe even get that second data point. So we might push the next meeting to later on next week so I can get that second data point to kind of see where we are, and that kind of might help us plan out the trajectory a little bit more.
Right. See which way you're going. If it's having a positive correlation or that negative correlation. Yeah, I think that would be good. So on a scale from 1 to 5, as you can see here as we go through the planning form, we know when you're going to do it next week, when we're going to meet next. And as far as a commitment level, how committed are you to, now that we've seen it in action, how committed are you to this goal on a scale from 1 to 5?
I think think I would probably be somewhere between like a 4.5 and a 5, definitely, especially when I got the second data point. If I could see that this was working and I felt like, it was beneficial, that would probably push it more closer to the 5.
Okay. And I guess not a question I necessarily have to ask, but I was just saying, how confident do you feel, like as a teacher, do you feel like it's improving your practice? Does it feel like it's getting in the way? Kind of what's your outlook on it as just an educator?
Yeah, I would definitely, I feel like it would make me more confident, because especially like when I think of, science and social studies, which is, to me, this is probably the most fascinating, the most interesting subject for the kids, but if it's not done well, it can be the most boring, the one where they're least engaged, if they're not given something they can really, sink their teeth into.
Right, no, I understand. Well, that's it. I just want to say thank you for letting me coach you for a couple of sessions and try to teach you a little bit more about blended learning classroom. And I just want to say thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Well, I have too. Thank you very much. I feel like I've learned some stuff.